2025 was a crazy year to say the least, but somehow I found the time to play 50 games. So with my love for unnecessarily ranking things today, I'm going to be ranking every game that I've played this year. So as we go through the list, you're going to be noticing that most of them are JRPGs because I think I figured out this year that JRPGs are the genres of games that I probably love the most. And half of the list is Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy adjacent because this is when I started to get into the franchise. First off, I'm mainly going to be counting single-player games, not multiplayer-focused games or any ongoing games. I'm only going to be covering games that I've completed. Some games I've played but I didn't finish or I gave up. And also to add on to the list, I'm going to be telling you who my favorite character is in each game. And there are some sequels, so I'm going to try to make it a point where each game has a different favorite character, even though sometimes the same character shows up throughout and I like them the most. I'll tell you if that happens. And of course, as all my rankings go, these are strictly my opinion. I'm ranking these based on how much I enjoy them and not necessarily on quality. So you might see some really highly regarded games lower on my list if I didn't enjoy them as much as the other games on my list. But I did enjoy most of them, all of these games, and I just liked some of them more than others. So don't kill me in the comments. And I guess a bit of a spoiler warning for some of these games. I'm gonna try my best to be as vague as possible about everything. Sometimes there are characters that show up towards the end of the game that I love but I can't discuss. So I'll just try to keep it as vague as possible. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 50. Alan Wake and Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So these are kind of two games, I suppose. American Nightmare is more like a DLC for Alan Wake, but anyway, this is a game that I played during my Minto event on my streams. And well, I had to choose a game to be at the end of my list. And I think if you were a viewer of my streams during that time, you could tell that I was really frustrated with the game. So for some context, I was excited to get into Alan Wake mainly because I heard that it's a really good story and the game kind of intrigued me with its premise. Being a writer, this was like an interesting story to get into. And I think the story did live up to the expectations because the story is great. I just wish the gameplay was better. Yeah, the gameplay was just really not very great. I think it mainly has to do with its age, probably. I should preface this by saying that I did play the original version. I didn't play the remaster. I'm not sure how much they changed, but I heard that it's just a graphical change anyway. It's not really a gameplay fix. So I don't know if that really affected anything, but it did really feel pretty clunky playing it. American Nightmare was definitely a big improvement on the formula from the original game, but yeah, I just got tired of all the poltergeist throwing shit at my face and a lot of the stuff that really hampered my enjoyment of the story. And my favorite character would be probably Mr. Scratch. I think he's a pretty interesting villain from what we've seen in American Nightmare, and it did get me excited to hopefully play Alan Wake 2 in the future. Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Mr. Scratch. He's a pretty cool villain. Number 49, Tribe 9. Tribe 9. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You said before that you weren't going to include any ongoing games or any gacha games, right? Well, yes, but if you've heard of this game and you've heard about what's going on with the game, you should know that the game is dead. Basically, it announced its end of service like 3 months into the game's lifetime, and basically it went offline well, by the time this video drops, like a week ago, so 9 months into its life. It was basically dead for 6 months, so yeah. So even though it's technically a gacha game and an ongoing game, I do feel like I'm comfortable talking about it as if it's a full game, which it isn't. That's the main reason why I have it at 49 here, because it is an unfinished game. Just from a story standpoint, they've only got up to chapter 3. I know they've continued it like in writing, but I don't think that one's really a conclusion either, so it is an unfinished game. But I did really enjoy what they gave us in those 3 chapters. I've been following this game for years now, I think, ever since they first announced it as like a spiritual successor to Danganronpa. I've watched the anime and all that, so I was really into this world. I did enjoy the gameplay even though it was really tough for me. There's a lot to love about this game. It's just, you know, they kind of doomed themselves by being so greedy at the start, and it did kind of just... My favorite character, it's very clear. It's Kazuki. Ever since I watched the anime, ever since I played the game, it's always been Kazuki. Kazuki is just such a great character, and you know, I love his design. I think as we go down the list, you're gonna see the type of characters that I like. There's a running theme for a lot of them, aside from the fact that they're just hot men, but I try my best not to just focus on hot men, but sometimes they just do it for me, you know? Number 48, Final Fantasy VIII. Okay, I'm gonna get some real mean comments after this one. Yeah, so here's the first Final Fantasy game on the list. Pretty low, as you can see, and yeah, Final Fantasy VIII, I know people like it, and I don't think it's that bad. It's just, you know, not my favorite of the Final Fantasy games. I think I liked the story for the most part and the characters. I just couldn't really get into the gameplay itself. I was kind of not really grabbing onto the whole junction mechanic and all the GFs and stuff like that. I think it also, unfortunately, is kind of hampered with being in between two really good Final Fantasy games. So that was kind of going against it a bit. I don't really want to be on the defensive here and trying to justify why I don't like it as much, because I still do like it. Like I've mentioned, the plot is great. I love the characters, Squall and Renoa, was it? Yeah, they were cute together. I love their relationship. And for my favorite character, I'm going with Irvine. I know, hot man, what a surprise. But look, I'm very picky when it comes to like the type of womanizing, flirtatious characters, and he didn't really grind my gears that much, so that's already a plus. And I did like the way they developed his character. Like, he's not just that. You know, he's arrogant, but he's still vulnerable sometimes. Number 47, Harvestella. So Harvestella was my second kind of this JRPG and farming sim fusion. The first one I played is going to be showing up later in the list, but here we have one that's made by Square Enix. It's kind of like the fusion of like the design and gameplay of Final Fantasy with farming simulator elements into it. And I think it was fun. I just think that it tried to do so much and it didn't really excel in much of them. Obviously, compared to like Rune Factory or stuff like that, this is more JRPG action focused rather than having a focus on the farming sim. And I could really tell because the farming kind of just became an afterthought. I think the combat was fine. It was not very complex, but I did really enjoy trying out the different jobs and figuring out which one was the most fun for me. The story was kind of giving like Xenoblade vibes, and I think it was pretty okay. Yeah, I think it just does everything at a decent level, but not really at a great level, if you get what I'm saying. I do really like the cast of characters though. Like, every character they introduce is fun. It did kind of suck that I had to wait until post-game before I could romance them. My favorite character is the person I married, which is Hind. He's a bit like Irvine in that, you know, he's like a womanizer and a bit flirtatious with every person he meets. And I don't know, he just came off as so charming, and I really loved his backstory too. Like, going through his side missions were really great. At first glance, I kind of really liked Braca, but then I kind of got annoyed by his voice lines and general demeanor, so it kind of put me off that, so I just went and stuck with Hein, I think. Number 46, Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy XIII. Okay, this one might be another controversial one, mainly because some people rate 13.3 as one of the best, if not the best, in the 13 trilogy. And I can see why. Like, in terms of gameplay wise, I did enjoy it. I really liked playing with the different costumes and dresses. You know, I'm someone who really likes dressing up the characters, and having this be part of the gameplay of Final Fantasy XIII was fun. And I did kind of like the story with what they gave us. At this point in the trilogy, I was already really lost with what was going on, and it did just confuse me even more, but I think I did still understand what was going on. I think it was just really, you know, end of the world type situation and all that. So the reason why this is that low in the list is just a personal thing. I really couldn't handle the timer that they put And I know you're gonna be saying like, oh, you don't need to worry about the timer. They give you plenty of time. Look, I know, I recognize that. I played the game, and by the time I reached like the final mission, I had like a couple of days of free time. So I know that I didn't need to rush anything. I just really get very stressed whenever there's a timer put on the screen for me. And like I could handle it when it's like a 5-minute timer for a challenge or something, but not when it's like for the entire game. And it's also like when you're in the menus, it doesn't stop ticking down either. So that like really stressed me out. I know there's ways to get around it and all that, but like I always just try rushing towards an objective and then have the timer reset and I have to go through everything again. And I know. And also a minor thing, I just didn't like that everyone was so like spread out and depressed. Alright, my favorite character. So this is the part where I tell you that my favorite character in the 13 trilogy remains the same throughout. It's Hope. It's Hope as time. I can get more into him. I can get more into the character when he shows up in a future game, but in keeping with my rule of having each game in a franchise having a different character, I'll say maybe Lightning. Yeah, again, I did like dressing her up in different outfits, and I think it's fitting because she is really just the center of this entire thing now compared to the previous games where the focus is kind of being pulled away from her. Number 45, Kingdom Hearts Re: Chain of Memories. Okay, so here's the first Kingdom Hearts game on the list. Again, really low and probably an unpopular opinion. Well, I don't know how much of an unpopular opinion this is. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that this game is kind of on the lower end of the Kingdom Hearts games. So just some context before everything. I did play all of the Kingdom Hearts games in the all-in-one package, so I did just mainly play the games that they provided, and I watched the cutscenes for all the games in between. Before going into this game, I was aware that it was gonna be a different kind of gameplay. Like, unfortunately, it's not something that I really enjoy the most. Like, once I understood how it worked, obviously I could just cheese everything. Not that I wanted to, but you know, it was getting frustrating, getting broken and stuff like that. And yeah, I appreciated them trying to switch up the formula a bit, but it is kind of an outlier in terms of game mechanics compared to the other Kingdom Hearts games that I played. I did hear that the Game Boy version is more bearable, but I just wanted to play the game that I bought, so yeah, for what it is, I think it's still fine. It's just, you know, kind of rough compared to the other games. But I really like the story, like the introduction of the organization and Naminé, and really starting to ramp things up. For my favorite character, I guess I can put Riku here. Riku is probably one of my favorite characters in the franchise, and I think I'll put him here because playing through his route was much more bearable than going through Sora's. And he is pretty fun to play, and I like his story, so yeah, I'll put Riku here for my favorite. Number 44, Final Fantasy X-2. Okay, so X-2, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I do really enjoy the gameplay, mostly. Again, just like 13.3, it is fun having them in different outfits to kind of embody different jobs. I did have fun going through all of these worlds again. I think it's just hampered by the fact that I love Final Fantasy X so much. You'll see it later in the list. Playing this right after felt kinda underwhelming. I still do like the characters, like the 3 girls, they're really girly pop, and for the story, it's kinda all over the place, so especially, again, following up from Final Fantasy. Like for these games, I'm trying not to compare them too much with their predecessors, but it is called 10-2, and yeah, compared to 10, it is kind of a 2. I guess for my favorite character, I'll put Yuna in. She's still a great character. I like that she's a protagonist now. I really liked her in the original game, but I'll put her in here. Number 43, Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage. A really long name for a game that wasn't very long. Yeah, it's down here mainly because it is just a tech demo for Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's like, what, 4 hours? If I take my time, it's not a lot. So that kind of just does bump it down a bit. But for what it is pretty great. Like, I really have fun playing as Aqua, and like visiting Cinderella and all these worlds. It was fun. It's just, just really short. The little bit of customization was a nice touch. I wish that were a bit more pronounced in Kingdom Hearts games. That would be cool. And for my favorite character, I don't know what to say. It's just gonna be Aqua because, yeah, we're just following Aqua, so she did get some nice development in this game. Number 42, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. So this is one of the few games on this list where I played it a bit before and I kind of dropped it, and I just decided to pick it up again this year. So I did go back and start everything again, and yeah, it was fun. Back when I first got this game, it's kind of embarrassing, but I got it mainly because I heard that you could get a Joker skin, and I had just finished playing Persona 5 like back in 2020, and I was obsessed. So I went for any game that had Joker in it, and I saw this game and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get this game because it has Joker in it. And I guess I'm glad I waited until now to play it, because now I've actually played a lot of the Fire Emblem games as well. Back then I didn't have any idea about Fire Emblem, but now I do, and I think it really did help with enjoying this game as it is now. The gameplay was a bit more like Shin Megami Tensei, which was great because I liked the turn-based combat. The characters were great, the story was fun. I liked the idol angle. That was really an interesting way to take the story. It didn't really take itself seriously, so it felt like a really chill, fun game to play. It did feel kind of janky, I think mainly because of the Switch, but you know what, I still had fun and I could overlook that. And also I did wish that they included more Fire Emblem characters that weren't just from Awakening or Shadow Dragon. So if there's ever a chance for a sequel, I hope they include some of the other Fire Emblem games as well. My favorite character is Yashiro. What a shocker, another hot guy. I mean, there's not much to say. He's really cool, and I like the story that they developed for him. Number 41, Final Fantasy 13. Okay, here we have the original Final Fantasy 13. I think this game is fine. There's a lot of criticism levied towards it, and I kind of see where people come from. Like in terms of the story, I think it's fine. It was still at a point where I understood the story, but they didn't really give a lot. The characters people found annoying, but I liked them. And I think the biggest criticism that others have is with its linearity. I think for me, that's not really a big deal. I don't have an issue with games being linear. In fact, sometimes I do prefer games that are linear. I would like for the linear games to have interesting stuff, which I think is one of the main issues of the game, is that it is linear, but not everything in that linear path is interesting. So the gameplay was fun, like getting to strategize each character and then making each character work in their job within a 3-man group. That was a fun mechanic. So overall, I think it is just kind of mid. It's not great and it's not horrible, you know? And I guess here is where I'll mention my favorite character being Hope. I know a lot of people hate Hope in this game because they find him annoying, but you know, he is a kid, and when a kid sees their mom die, they're gonna hold a grudge in a childish way, and he does actually go through a development arc, so that's, you know, good. Yeah, I just think his growth really sells it for me. Number 40, Marvel's Midnight Suns. Okay, so this game is kind of interesting. I saw it in one of those showcases, and it did intrigue me mainly because of like the slice of life stuff that you see in like Persona. I did see someone kind of pitch this game as like Persona with Marvel characters in an XCOM gameplay sort of sense, which was really intriguing to me. So I did really enjoy myself with this game. You know, I love a Marvel crossover. The story was interesting. I love the characters and the character choices they chose here. And I think they did things pretty well, but they didn't really hit the peaks that they could have, you know? I'll just get it out of the way. I'm not really too fond of the combat. I know it's pretty good for like XCOM fans. It did suffer a bit from the Fire Emblem Three Houses kind of issue where the Abbey is a bit like the monastery, where like it gets to a point where it's not really that interesting, and I kind of want to just keep going with the story. Like, yeah, I do enjoy going on dates and chilling with the Marvel characters, but after a certain point, I just want to get through the story, you know? I don't want to really explore the Abbey. It's not really that interesting to me. And on the topic of hanging out with characters, I was really sad that we didn't get to romance the characters. I know that's not really what the game is for, but you know, if you throw me a friendship mechanic, I do kind of want to romance the characters. And my favorite character would be Wanda. Yeah, she is the one that I really focus on because I love the Scarlet Witch, and yeah, I really liked how ingrained she was to the story and also the personal story of the Huntress too. Honorable mention goes to Magic. I love Magic's character. She was so fun to get to know. If I didn't already have like a biased view towards Wanda, I think Magic definitely would have stolen the show. She was so fun.
Number 39, Luigi's Mansion 3.
So this is the first and only Luigi's Mansion game that I've played, so I don't know how much that will influence my view of the game. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fun, like going around and sucking everything. The combat was fun, like you sucking the ghosts and then pounding them on the floor. I really don't know how to phrase this better. The setting was cool. There were some bosses that were like borderline annoying and frustrating rather than fun, but those were like few and far between. The fucking cat, oh my god, I want to kill that cat. And I kind of wish that the money mattered more. Like when I got to EGAT's shop and I saw all the stuff on offer, I didn't really feel motivated to collect all the money that I could find if, you know, the stuff that I could buy isn't really consequential that much. But overall, it was still a fun time. Like I played it off stream during October, so it was still in that spooky season, so it was great for that. I'm not really sure how to pick a favorite character. I guess Luigi, because he's like the main character. It was fun playing as Luigi and seeing his reactions to everything.
Number 38, Super Mario RPG.
I didn't really intend for the two Mario games to be like side by side with each other, but anyway. I am kind of nervous ranking this low on the list, mainly because like people herald this as one of the greatest RPGs ever. And don't get me wrong, I still think this is a great game. It's just not something that I enjoy as much as the others on the list. It is kind of like baby's first JRPG, but you know, that's pretty much the only gripe I have with it that I can mention, because everything else is still pretty good. So yeah, I wonder how much nostalgia plays into people's love of the game, because I still really like this game, but I guess maybe I'd have a bigger attachment if I grew up with the game as most people did. It is like a good palate cleanser when I'm playing a lot of these like depressing JRPGs. In terms of favorite character, probably Gino. Gino is really cool. I like his gameplay too, like laser gun he has on his arm when I equip that weapon. That is really strong.
Number 37, World of Final Fantasy.
Okay, so this is, I think, the first FF spin-off on this list. So being a huge Pokemon fan and getting into the Final Fantasy world, I was kind of really excited to play this game, and I think it did live up to the expectation. Like it gets your guard down with its like cutesy, chibi art style, and also like the world and characters kind of do fit that vibe as well. But there is definitely still depth in its combat and story. It was pretty fun to go quote-unquote catch these Final Fantasy creatures that we've come across throughout the series. And the gameplay mechanic of stacking was kind of interesting. Like it's a real good twist on like the sort of Pokemon formula. And of course, the biggest thing about this game is the fan service. We can't talk about this game without all the fan service they've thrown at us. I did play this at a weird time. I probably should have played it like towards the end of my FF journey, but I played this before playing 7 through 9, so I did kind of miss out on the context for those games, unfortunately. I think I was just too excited to get into this gameplay because I was itching for some Pokemon. Yeah, I like the way that the FF characters were integrated into the story. I wish I could have played them a bit more rather than just, the summoning, but I guess it made sense. It was very fluffy. I liked it. It was very chill. Favorite character? I guess it might be cheating if I chose the Final Fantasy crossover characters. So I'm trying to look at like the original ones. Does Shiva count as a character? Like in the game you could choose between like 3 starters being Shiva, Ramu, or Ifrit. And I went with Shiva because I just think she's cool.
Number 36, Cassette Pieces.
So this is the game that I played on my YouTube channel completely, so you can go check out that playthrough right now if you want to. But I mentioned in the video how I came about finding the game. Just throughout the summer, I was really itching for more Pokemon, and I was like really getting antsy waiting for Legends ZA to drop. Obviously, I came across World of Final Fantasy too, but I also came across Cassette Beasts. And I thought, what a cool concept, because I was also at the time getting into cassettes. And yeah, the game is just such a good vibe. Like the music, everything about this game is so well done. From the art style to the story and the premise, to the gameplay and presentation. Obviously, the monster designs are cool. And I really appreciated that not only could you romance people, but you could be gay, which is amazing. It was pretty much everything I wanted from a Pokemon-like game or like a creature collector, and I just really enjoyed my time with it. And don't get me wrong, I know it's 35 on my list, but I still really love it, and like I played a lot of games that I liked this year, okay? And yeah, my favorite character is Eugene, obviously, the one that I romanced. I guess the criticism would be that Eugene was kind of locked behind getting through most of the game before you could, you know, progress with him. But I really liked him as a character, and not just because he has white hair.
Number 35, Final Fantasy 13-2.
Alright, here we have my favorite of the Final Fantasy 13 games. If you know my lore, you know that I love like timelines and multiverse stuff, so this game's story was up my alley for sure. And being able to jump across time to different settings is really cool. The gameplay really surprised me because I wasn't expecting like a monster collecting thing. But you know me, as I said just now, I love Pokemon and I love like creature collecting, so like I was pleasantly surprised when that was like one of the key factors of the gameplay. The fact that I could like capture and wrangle 3 different colored chocobos was so fun. And yeah, I guess like the story was getting a bit too complicated for me to follow, but I still really enjoyed my time with this. I think Sarah was fine as a protagonist, but my favorite character would be Noel for sure. He was really cool, and I like his whole backstory of going back to the past to change his future. But I gotta give a shout out to Grown Up Hope. Oh my god, he is so goddamn hot in this game. I can't.
Number 34, Final Fantasy 15.
So 15 is the second Final Fantasy game I've ever played. The first being 12, which is not on this list because I played it last year. But I think that in terms of ranking among the FF games, 15 and 12 kind of occupy around the same tier. I like FF12 a bit more. It was pretty interesting to play this second because I feel like this is when FF started to gear more towards action JRPG rather than the turn-based kind of gameplay that the series was known for. But I didn't really have that attachment because this is, like as I said, the second one that I played. And I thought it was pretty fun. Like the combat isn't very deep, but I did like being able to like switch around the different weapons. The open world, I didn't really feel compelled to explore. Maybe that's like a minus on that front, but I still like going around in the car like a road trip vibe with my boys. Like speaking of the boys, I think the game really shines in terms of like characterizing the 4 characters here. Anyway, my favorite character is Prompto. Not just because he's my type, but like I like his voice as well. And this is gonna sound really bad, but so I got the Royal Edition, and you know how each DLC is like a story covering each character as they leave the story and come back to it, right? I only really played the Prompto one, so yeah, I didn't really feel motivated to play the other characters' stories, but I did have fun with the Prompto one, and yeah, that's why I like him the most. Like I found his backstory really interesting, and yeah, he's hot, so.
Number 33, Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
This game I played on May the 4th because sometimes I like to play Star Wars games on May the 4th. I played this one this year because I played Fallen Order a couple of years ago, and I thought like maybe it's time I get around to this one. And yeah, I really like it. It did very much feel like they took everything from the first game and just improved upon them. I don't think there were as many memorable scenes as the first game. Like obviously the highlight scene of the first game would be that Darth Vader scene. Sorry if this is a spoiler, but yeah, Darth Vader does show up in both games. And I think like, yeah, this game, the highlight for me was also that Darth Vader scene. And I really like how they used the different lightsaber styles to really make them more unique compared to last time. I think my only issue was I wished that certain characters were given more development. Like, I'll just go ahead and say that my favorite character with an asterisk would be Degengara. The asterisk being like, obviously I like him because, well, not just because he's a hot white-haired guy and a villain. I thought he was a really interesting character, but I feel like they could have done more with him too. And I think that's like the main sticking point, is that he's my favorite character, but I wish they did more with him. And also I think it's kind of cheating if I chose Darth Vader, because...
Number 32, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
So I'll take this opportunity to tell you that I kind of played the 7 games in a really weird order. I started out with 7 Remake, which is going to show up later in the list, and then I went back and played the original game. Yeah, so I went from 7 Remake to 7 OG to this game to Rebirth. This game itself, it was pretty cool. Like, seeing as it's a prequel, it was cool to see like the other locations, and like Baby Yuffie was fun. The main highlight for me obviously is Zack and his relationship with Aerith. I just love the two of them, they're so cute together. And in terms of gameplay, it did feel at times like, you know, it is a PSP game at heart. And sometimes it did feel that way, but I still had a lot of fun with it. The gacha mechanic was like, I didn't really fully understand, but I just rolled with it. And if I got bumps, then, you know, good for me. Yeah, the story was interesting, like seeing Sephiroth again and all the other characters. And of course, we can't talk about this game without talking about the ending. I won't tell you the ending, but just know that when people say you're gonna cry at the ending, they aren't lying. Oh my god, I was in shambles after that. Holy shit. And with that, I'm gonna say my favorite character is Zack, because this game is about him and how he matters into the whole story of 7, and they really did a good job characterizing him.
Number 31, Resident Evil 2.
This was the other game that I played during Mintober, and this was my first Resident Evil game. Well, I decided to make this like the first game in my Resident Evil journey because for one very, very clear reason. And I found it pretty fun. It was really cool to run around the Raccoon Police Department because all I knew about it from before was from Dead by Daylight. And I thought it was an interesting story. Like, the characters were cool, and it was like decently scary. It was, I think, the right amount of scary for me. I don't really like jump scares at all, so this one was like okay for me. It was manageable, and yeah, I think it's just the right amount of scary for me, which is good. I think the only thing holding it back, which is just really a personal issue, is the inventory management, which is like on me because I know we can expand our inventory, and I'm not good at stuff like that. So yeah, that was just me, but that's like not a big deal either. My favorite character is obviously Leon Kennedy because he's hot, but also he's cool. I know I'm gonna see more of him in the future too, so I'm excited for that.
Number 30, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Forgotten Land was my first Kirby game, sort of. I played a bit of like the Game Boy games, but anyway, this was a really fun game. It was really cute. I really had a lot of fun like swallowing things as Kirby and using all of these forms, and everything looked really good. It was really well designed. I guess I just wish it was a bit longer, but I think that's kind of par for the course for these types of platformers. And I also wish there was a bit more to the DLC. I got the DLC for pretty much almost the same price as the game itself because I got it on clearance. But otherwise, still a really cute game. I still enjoyed myself. Favorite character, obviously our main character, Kirby, our lovable pink fluff. I really love the little sounds they make when they attack or like jump around. They're really cute.
Number 29, Judgment.
Okay, this is my second kind of Yakuza game. I was really looking forward to playing this one because, you know, it's a detective game and I've played a lot of detectives games on stream. This one I didn't really play on stream. I was planning to, but I didn't. And I guess I still enjoyed myself off stream. Also, it was starring Takuya Kimura, who I really, really like in some dramas that I've watched as a kid. Kinda had to get used to the beat 'em up playstyle because the first Yakuza game I played wasn't beat 'em up style. but I still think it was pretty fun. I was kind of iffy a bit on some of the detective aspects, but overall as a package, the gameplay and the story together, they all still rounded up pretty well. Really felt like a drama that I watched as a kid starring Takuya Kimura. So my favorite character is Sugiura. I won't go too much into spoilers, but I just really enjoyed how his character developed throughout the story and how he was like ingrained into the main story. I thought he was just gonna be like a side character mostly, but the fact that he was like an important part of the main story was really cool. And also, just an aside, usually I play games in English dubs, but for this game I wanted to play in Japanese because, you know, Takuya Kimura. But the moment I found out that Sugiura was voiced by Mark Whitten, aka Kazuha's voice actor, I switched over and I never looked back.
Number 28. Until Then.
Oh man, I have so much to talk about with this game, but I can't talk about all of them because it's into spoiler territory, and I really think you should go play this game if you haven't. There is a lot to love about this game, from the art style to the music, and of course the characters and stories. They are what really made this game shine. Like, I'm not Filipino, but like being in the Southeast Asian culture, it really felt like going back home when I played this game, and it really felt like nostalgic even though it's not even set that far back in the past. Really, the only gripe I really have is kind of spoiler territory, but like I'll try to be as vague as I can. I just wish the main conflict and ideas that they were running with mattered more to the story in the end. But at the same time, I feel like it doesn't really matter either way. Like, that's not the main point of the story. The main point of the story is the characters and their interactions and relationships. So anyway, there are a few times this year that I think I've cried on stream, but this one I think was the most memorable because I remember bawling when I reached one of the endings. It just, oh god, it hit me so hard. My favorite character is Kathy. Kathy's best girl. She's just the best. We need to protect Kathy at all costs.
Number 27. Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma.
I alluded to this one when I was talking about Harvestella. This is kind of like the first JRPG farming sim hybrid that I played. And this also happened to be the first Switch 2 game that I played on stream. The first time I saw this was, I think, way back in one of the directs. I had heard about Rune Factory before, but this was the first one that I really caught my eye because of the characters. When I saw Fubuki, I just knew that he was the one. And then even when going into the game, I was like getting sidetracked by other hot characters. Like, I couldn't handle everything. Yeah, this was a really great introduction into the world of Rune Factory. It took elements that I loved from Stardew, like the farming and the romance options, of course. And then you add to that with some JRPG gameplay. The only complaint was, once again, I was really hoping that it would last a bit longer, but I think Rune Factory, and I guess games in general like this, are kind of meant to be played like over time. Yeah, there's not a lot to get me going back to the game, but it did make me interested in the previous Rune Factory games, so I might go back to those sometime. Favorite character is, as I said, Fubuki. He's the one that I married and the one that I saw all the way back in that Switch Direct. I loved his character design just from the first impressions, but I really loved his personality and his story as well. Shout out to Ikaruga because I almost faltered when I met him. He was also a really strong contender, but I was fiercely loyal to Fubuki, unfortunately.
Number 26. Kingdom Hearts 3D, Dream Drop Distance.
3D was a pretty good game, but it is kind of in the middle of Kingdom Hearts games for me. I think it's mainly in the middle because I wasn't too big of a fan of the added elements in the game. Like I told you, I loved creature collecting, but I didn't really feel like I needed to go out of my way to get Dream Eaters in this game. And I've told you about how I dislike timers and the whole drop mechanic. It didn't really bother me as much as it did in 13.3, but it still was kind of annoying when I was doing something as Sora and then I get dropped into Riku's story. But most of the time I still managed to beat out the clock and just manually went to drop instead. So that was okay for me. And I guess one more nitpick would be that the movies that they featured in this game weren't really something that I connected with the most. Like, I'm pretty sure The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the only one that I've watched. But even with all those gripes, I still really enjoyed this one because it's still, you know, Kingdom Heart at its core, and I really like playing both Sora and Riku. And this is a minor spoiler for like the first chapter, but oh my god, the moment that Neku shows up and the rest of the cast from The World Ends With You shows up, I screamed. You have no idea how excited I was about that. I did not expect that at all. I was just thinking they were gonna stick with Final Fantasy characters. So is it cheating if I choose my favorite character as Joshua? I just missed him so much and it was like such a delight to see him again.
Number 25, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim.
This was another game that I played a bit before and then I kind of dropped. So I picked it up again in the middle of the story, which was already confusing enough. And I think even at this point, after finishing the game, I still don't fully understand what's going on, but that's okay. I was mainly playing it for the vibes, and I think I still managed to parse together the story in the end, I think. I just really love the cast of characters they included and all the ways that they weave the storylines together. And all the times that they chose were really interesting too. It was kind of wild playing this and then seeing that they go to the year 2025 and it's like a barren wasteland. I mean, metaphorically, it feels like that, honestly. And I guess I'm just gonna say that I wasn't really drawn to the gameplay aspect. I was mainly here for the story and the kind of defense battle mechanics I weren't really interested in, so I just like played them to get them out of the way, honestly. I don't think it comes as a shock that my favorite character is Tsukasa. You know, I like my white-haired characters, and the fact that they're non-binary was amazing. It was really surprising for me to see such a well-written queer character and queer relationship. And yeah, I'm sticking with my non-binary headcanon. I'm pretty sure it is canon too, but like, I'm not gonna go into that fucking Naoto discourse again. I'm too tired for that, and with P4R coming out eventually, I'm not looking forward to that. Okay, these next few are gonna be pretty divisive, so go easy on me.
Number 24, The Last of Us Part 2.
So some people might think this ranking is a bit too high because it's, you know, woke garbage or whatever. First off, shut up. And some people think, you know, it's an amazing game, like one of the best of all time. Now, obviously I loved it, but like I don't really rank it that high or that low. I think it's just middle of the road for me a bit. I think the gameplay was like massively improved from the first game. That's I think the biggest thing that really sold it to me. And I think the story is probably the most controversial thing about this game. And yeah, I am kind of mixed on it. I think the dual storylines was pretty well achieved. I did pick up on the themes that they were going for with both Ellie and Abby being foils of each other. And I get that they were trying to get you to sympathize for Abby, but I don't know, I generally didn't really feel that way towards her. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that because we followed Ellie so much in the first game and she is such a great character in that game, that going into this game I am still really biased towards her. So I do get where Abby's coming from, but I never really connected with her storyline that much. Abby herself is a great character though, I did like her. But all in all, I still really love this game. It's in the middle of my list, but it's just that I've played a lot of good games this year and this just ended up being in this position. Favorite character goes to Ellie. I love her. Ever since the first game, I've loved her character, and I really like how they developed her character in this one as well. Finally let her be gay, which is awesome. She's gonna be a dad.
Number 23, Dragon Quest XI's.
11S was my first Dragon Quest game, and I really loved it. It's such a cozy game. I don't know why. It's such a chill experience to play. I think the vibes overall and just the gameplay mechanics were it just felt really old school and classic, bare bones, simple JRPG. I think simple is a really great word to use for this game, and not in a negative way. Like, it's simple in the sense that it's easy to get into, it's not overly complicated in terms of gameplay and story. The characters are easy to get behind, and it's just a really charming package overall. I just had a lot of fun with it, and it ticked a lot of boxes that I liked for a JRPG. I don't really know if it sold me on the other Dragon Quest games yet. My favorite character is Eric. He's like a very typical first party member, but I liked his voice, I like his gameplay. Oh my god, he was carrying me in the late game, I think.
Number 22, Final Fantasy 16.
So this one is mainly controversial for Final Fantasy fans. I can definitely feel it in the way that this sometimes really doesn't feel a lot like Final Fantasy. I think I was pretty well prepared because I played 15, but it is still a huge departure from the kind of turn-based ATB gameplay that people were used to. But I still really enjoy myself with this game. Yeah, the gameplay isn't that deep, but it's also pretty fun. And I don't know if it's just the graphics or the fact that you can play as Ifrit, but this game just felt so cinematic and so epic. Like every fight is mind-blowing to see. I think it also matters to people when the side quests are actually fun to play. I'm not someone who actually plays a lot of side quests. I just stick to the main story. So the side quests didn't really bother me with this one. I just went for the ones that mattered to the characters that I liked. And I still got what I wanted from the game. I really enjoyed the story for what it is. I think I played this one after 13, so I was like really appreciative of a story that I could actually understand. And yeah, it just had some really great characters and I liked it. I'm just also in the crowd of hoping that the next Final Fantasy game is going back to the turn-based mechanics. My favorite character in this game is another character named Joshua. I really enjoyed this overall story about him and Clive. I loved his character, not just because of the design, like he's hot, but like his character writing as well. Big shout out to Dion. I think at this point you probably expected me to like Dion the most. I definitely do like him a lot, you know, white-haired guy. And he's gay on top of that, like come on. Aside from that, there's just the writing for Dion as well, like amazing character.
Number 21. Pokemon Legends ZA.
Okay, so sometimes I had to defend myself on why I didn't like some of the better games on the list. But here I have to defend on why I like this game that people seem to be really upset about. Once again, you've heard me talk about how much of a Pokemon fan I am, and I'm gonna be transparent about that. I am biased to Pokemon. I've grown up with it, and obviously I do see the faults, but I still really enjoy every installment that they put out. And Legends ZA isn't that different. Is it not that great of a product, especially compared to other games in this price point? Absolutely. Is it a step up from recent Pokemon games? I think so. There are obviously some things that I can't overlook, like obviously I really like voice acting in video games and it definitely feels bad here not having any voice acting. You know, as a streamer it is fun to put my own voice to things when I'm playing it, but I definitely get why it might sting for people, especially those who just play on their own, for example. Graphically, it is still pretty bad by 2025 standards, but it is also still a step up from previous Pokemon games. And I really liked how they changed up the formula. You know how I love turn-based games? Pokemon is the reason for that, and I was still pretty excited when they decided to switch it up to real-time battles this time. And in my opinion, the story is probably one of the best Pokemon stories in recent memory. There's things that I can't defend, but it is still overall a really fun game that I really enjoyed my time with, and it's just so fun shiny hunting in this game, and it's so fun just running around Lumio City. Anyway, it's my list. Just know that I'm biased towards Pokemon, and that's why it's not even that high. It's in the middle of the list, guys. My favorite character, unsurprisingly, Corbo. You know, there's one hot guy in every Pokemon game that I love, and he's the one for this one. I did like his whole shtick about being like a kind-hearted mafia member. Reminded me a bit of Yakuza. Also, shout out to Justin for having an absolute banger of a theme. I still not sure how I feel about her as a character, but she's definitely complex to say the least.
Number 20. Nier Automata.
So this is the most recent game I've completed. I'm actually recording this like a couple of hours after I finished Nier Automata. I'll just say right off the bat, I didn't really connect with the combat, especially like the bullet hell sections and the hacking stuff. I'm also kind of iffy about the fact that there isn't autosave. I mean, I get what they're going for, but sometimes I've lost an hour of progress because of things that aren't really in my control. But getting all of that out of the way, everything is saved because it is such an amazing story. It is so good. I mean, if you're caught up with like techno dystopian stories like this, it is kind of expected where it's going. Everything is still a gut punch whenever it comes up, especially towards Route C where a lot of dramatic things happen. And also a big plus to the music. The music is amazing. I'm kind of picky when it comes to games that you have to play through multiple times to get like the proper endings. But with this one, it didn't really feel like a drag. Every route you get to play as a new character, and obviously the first two routes are kind of similar, but it's different enough. And I also get to play as 9S in the second one, which brings me to my favorite character, being 9S. Again, white-haired guy, automatically a contender for favorite, but his story was so great. I loved his relationship with 2B, obviously, but the way his story developed afterwards was also just amazing to follow. Not gonna go into huge spoilers, but just saying that Route C just a justified crash out on his part, honestly. Also helps that his voice actor was incredible in the role.
Number 19. Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance.
I finally got around to playing Path of Radiance, which is something I've been meaning to do for a while now. I was kind of hesitant about it because it is like the oldest Fire Emblem game that I was gonna play at that point. I'll get the negatives out of the way, mainly the fact that the gameplay is a bit dated, especially in terms of Fire Emblem standards. I'm a casual player, so I could have lived without permadeath, but I could work around it because I played Awakening before. And it is kind of slow in terms of gameplay, especially when you don't have like skipping. But again, the whole thing is saved because of its story and its cast of characters. It was really interesting to see like the different races and their interactions and how Ike was like just caught up in the middle of it. And even though the gameplay is dated, I still enjoyed myself with it. It's not as complex as like some of the later games, but it's still pretty fun. And I don't know when I'm gonna get around to playing Radiant Dawn, but hopefully soon. Favorite character is Soren. I liked Soren's portrayal in Engage, which was my first impression of him, so I really liked him. And also knowing that he has a really clear relationship with Ike, which is, you know, another plus in my book. But also his story is great. Won't go into spoilers, but his identity is a big part of his story, and I really liked how they handled it.
Number 18. Kingdom Hearts.
There's just something so magical about the original game. From the gameplay to the way it weaves Final Fantasy characters with some of the most beloved Disney worlds in memory, to the music, the themes, and the original characters. And maybe I just missed the times when the plot of the games weren't so goddamn complicated. It just feels very nostalgic even though I didn't really grow up with the games. I kind of wish I did. Still, this game holds a special place in my heart for just being the introduction to this great world. Obviously, if you look at it in hindsight, it's probably not as good in terms of gameplay just because it's a dated product. And yeah, it's just a simple and clean experience. I'll put my favorite character as Sora, our protagonist, and he was a great vessel because he really brought that childlike wonder that I guess any kid would have when you're visiting a Disney world. And I am rating him based on his entire story throughout the games, but just on this game alone, he was still a pretty good character too.
Number 17. Yakuza, Like a Dragon.
My first Yakuza game, and my god, I loved it. I had so much fun with this game. As you heard from my judgment section, I was looking into getting into Yakuza, but I was kinda hesitant because of the beat 'em up brawling type of gameplay. That is until I found out that Yakuza 7 is not only turn-based, but it's also a pretty good starting point for the series. I don't typically like to get into a franchise in the middle of things, especially if things are connected. And I did feel a bit of that, but I still really enjoy myself with the story and the characters, the new ones that they introduced and the old ones that they brought back. The themes were great. I really liked how they talked about the prejudiced communities in Japan. Obviously, the whole story surrounding the Yakuza itself was compelling. The humor was great, as to be expected from Yakuza. And the gameplay was fun. Yeah, I loved turn-based and it really felt like Dragon Quest. I played Dragon Quest after this game and I could really tell that they were inspired by the Dragon Quest games. I loved the job system. I loved that you could play as a female character. Well, I mean, as part of your party. And it was just a really fun, good time overall. Favorite character, not a surprise, Han Joong-gi. I love my Korean culture, so having a Korean character here was great. The story was great. I think he's from the previous games too, so I might have to go back and catch up. Just from my impressions here, he was really great.
Number 16. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Going to this one, I was kind of afraid because it was a whole new cast of characters and it was a prequel, so I wasn't really sure if I was going to connect with it, but my god, it really blew my expectations out of the water. I mentioned before how I feel about having to replay sort of the same scenario over and over to get a proper ending. And yeah, this game didn't feel tedious visiting the same worlds again. It really felt like 3 different pieces of a puzzle coming together to form one full story. And each route was fun because the gameplay was different each time. And I really had fun with the gameplay mechanic of this one, having to combine skills and level them up. That was a really fun mechanic and I really enjoyed myself with this one. And yeah, the story was great and I really like the characters. Speaking of which, my favorite is Ventus. Ventus is precious. He's my boy. I guess maybe I just like any proxy characters related to Sora. I just love them all, and they're also distinct in character too, like even if they're based pretty much on the same character. It's just really cute. I love him.
Number 15. The 100 Line. Last Defense Academy.
Oh, there is just so much to say about this game here. So you know me, I'm a big Danganronpa fan. I was excited about this game ever since I saw it in the Switch Direct, I think. Budokan was really pumping out games this year. Anyway, I was really intrigued with the character designs obviously, and the gameplay being like tactics like Fire Emblem kind of gameplay. So couple that with the fact that it was made with Uchikoshi, who made the Zero Escape games, and they're games that I love. I had really high hopes for this game, and they nailed it. Yeah, they lived up to the hype. First off, it's a very Danganronpa premise, like everything from the character designs to the gameplay to the story to the music that are sometimes they just feel like one-to-one Danganronpa remakes. And all of that with some really engaging tactics gameplay that was really fun. Basically, you have this game that was essentially tailor-made for me, honestly. The story and the premise was interesting, and the fact is, I've barely even started with the game. Because as of now, I've only played through the game once. I've reached the first ending, and there are 99 other endings. I'm really looking forward to playing more of this game. Just based on that ending, I've really enjoyed myself with the game, and we'll see if it holds up in the subsequent playthroughs. But as of now, yeah, I love this. And also, it has an absolutely amazing final boss song. Like, I think it's in my top 10 in my Spotify rap this year, because it's not even a genre that I like to listen to, but it's just so good, and the context in which it appears is just, oh, it was so amazing. Favorite character is Eito. Just from the design, you can tell that it's someone that I would like, obviously. Just everything about Eito, from his involvement in the story and his personality, it's all basically everything that I love in a character, especially one made by Kodaka.
Number 14. The Great Ace Attorney Adventures.
If you've been following my streams for a while, you know that I've been playing the original Ace Attorney game trilogy. I was pretty transparent in the fact that I was mainly playing those so that I could get set up for playing this game right here. Because one, I really like the Ace Attorney gameplay and the stories that they tell. And also I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan, so I was really excited to play this one specifically. And I'm gonna be honest, I really enjoyed this one more than the original, which is crazy. Also, just to preface, this is just the first game. I still have the second game in the duology to play. I'll get to that next year, but anyway. But this game has the setting, the cases, the adventures, and the amazing characters. It was just like everything I loved in Ace Attorney turned up to 11. I just really like seeing the 3D models moving and the animations they can get out of those. And of course, it was all carried by the one character that I was really looking forward to meeting, Sherlock Holmes. What is there to say about this character other than he's just entertaining from the moment you meet him, and he just never lets up in how great of a character he is. He's so funny, he's so quirky, he's obviously smart to a fault, and he's so just goddamn attractive. I can't. He's such a well-written person.
Number 13. Unicorn Overlord.
This was another game I was wanting to play for a while because it had a lot of things going for it. They had a big cast of characters. There was a pretty interesting strategy gameplay that I saw. Obviously the amazing art style by Vanillaware. And everything came together to become like one of the most addictive gameplays I have ever played. Like, I could not put this game down. Every day I go to class and I just think about going back home to play this game. It is so addictive and it is so fun. It has a pretty unique strategy gameplay. I've never played a strategy game like this. I don't know if there are similar games out there, but it was really fun to like build characters around different classes and then putting them into a unit to make those work together. Like personally, I just grouped my main character with like hot men because why would I not? And yeah, I really loved all the supports with the other characters too. Like, it isn't really as deep as Fire Emblem, but I didn't really expect it to be. The story was also pretty simple, but I think it's something that I appreciate, honestly. And yeah, I just love that you could romance characters. That's a huge plus. So yeah, in many cases in this list, the story is what carries the game for me, but in this case, the gameplay is what really drives it up for me. So my favorite character is kind of a complicated case. The character that I married was Travis, and I guess I'll put him as my favorite character. He was a pretty early recruit, and I loved his supports with Elaine. His personality and character design is also something that I really like. But then, after going through most of the game, in came Sonatio. He's a really late game unit, so by the time he came around, I was already betrothed to Travis, but I really liked Sonatio's character too. Number 12, The Last of Us. Oh, the original. I was really interested in this game all the way back in 2013 when I was a kid, mostly because I was really into zombie games like Left 4 Dead 2 or Walking Dead. But unfortunately, I did not own a PS3, so I had to wait until I got a PS4. And when I got a PS4, I got the game. I played a bit of it and then I got really motion sick, so I gave up on it. And I decided to come back to it this year because I got a PS5. And going into it, I was a bit afraid that it was just going to be rehashing a lot of the same things as the Walking Dead game, being the father figure to a young girl in a zombie apocalypse. But I think that's where the similarities end. Even though, I said it was kind of dated and improved upon by part 2, but at the time when I played it, it still was pretty well handled. Obviously, the game is carried by its story, the narrative is really engaging, and following Joel and Ellie is just such a journey. I will say I was kind of surprised at the ending. Like, obviously it was okay for me because I had part 2 ready to go after I played part 1, but I really can't imagine how I would have felt about it if that was the ending I had and I had to wait a couple of years before part 2 came out. The dynamic between those two was so fun and really adds to the characters and the story as a whole. So yeah, overall a great experience. I've talked about Ellie a bit in part 2 and I'll just talk about Joel, I guess. I just like how they set him up immediately with that tragedy that he faced at the start of the game, and you can see how he feels towards Ellie and how he wants to be that father figure for her. And I just loved seeing his development throughout the game.
Number 11, Metaphor ReFantasio.
This was the last proper game I played on stream, and my god, what a journey. It was such a great experience. My favorite game of all time is Persona 5, if you know, and it just feels like Atlus took everything they've learned, not just from Persona 5, but their entire library of games and experience from making those games and putting it into Metaphor. It just felt like Persona 5, but make it fantasy, and it just worked so well. The characters were great, the gameplay is fun, I liked being able to choose a job or an archetype. I thought the turn-based mechanics were really interesting, and everything from the presentation, like the art style, the music, and of course the story. I thought that the villain was really compelling, and even the protagonist himself. Like, sometimes the protagonist can be a really blank slate, but the protagonist in this game was really a well-developed character. So with that in mind, my favorite character, which is probably a surprising thing, is Fidelio. Not to get too much into spoilers, but Fidelio, he's just a side character at the start. Like, he works under the villain and goes through the story, and you see how he develops along with his brother, and my god, he's such a great character. Which is surprising because originally I was going into it like, oh, maybe I'll like Luis because he's hot and he's a villain. I do still like him too, and I also like Stroll because, a white-haired guy and he's hot. But yeah, surprisingly Fidelio is the one that really stole my heart.
Number 10, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
I think a lot of people who played Breath of the Wild extensively find that Tears of the Kingdom was great, but probably not as great as the original. I'm kind of in a weird position where I played the original a long time ago and I didn't actually finish it. Like, back then I played a lot of the original game up until I had to fight the final boss, and then I stopped playing because I think I wanted to explore more, but I didn't end up doing it before fighting the boss and I just stopped. So going into this game, I had to go watch a recap video to catch myself up again. And I thought it was just such a fun and well-made game, especially without those preconceptions to it. Like, it took all that I remembered from Breath of the Wild and improved upon them. and added some interesting gameplay mechanics to it too. I thought the story was fun, even though it did feel a bit like rehashing the same story beats as Breath of the Wild. But you know, if you have a winning formula, you don't have to fix it that much. It was just really fun, and I'm glad that I've actually sat down and finished this game, unlike the original one. I won't spoil it, but just the final hour of the game, the ending is just so good. It just makes everything so worth it. My favorite character, probably Zelda. I really loved going to all the tiers and getting the pieces of the past together, and just the entire story that they've put together was so good. And Zelda was just such a great part of the story. I don't really remember if she was as integral to the plot of Breath of the Wild, but she definitely felt really great here, even though she wasn't like actually present for most of it.
Number 9. Kingdom Hearts 3.
I think I have to put a disclaimer here. This isn't actually the first time I've played Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 was actually the first Kingdom Hearts game I played all the way back when it first released, or around that period. And I mainly played it because one of my favorite movies of all time is Frozen. When I heard that there's a video game version of Frozen out there, I just bought the game without realizing that there's years worth of lore to catch up on. So back then when I played Kingdom Hearts 3, I had no clue what the fuck was going on. And I was just enjoying myself going through these Disney worlds without knowing what the hell a Xehanort is. So this year when I made it a point to get through the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise, I was looking forward to seeing what my thoughts would be now that I have the context of the entire series. And my gosh, it's so good. So right off the bat, after going through the entire franchise and playing mainly games that were made in the original engine, having this brand new look and engine just made everything so beautiful. I got a taste of it in 0.2, but it really popped in this game. The gameplay was really fun. I loved the different Keyblade forms that Sora has. And again, one of my favorite movies is Frozen, and I really think that this roster of worlds is probably my favorite in a Kingdom Hearts game. I like the choices of the worlds, but the worlds themselves probably not the best, but I still had fun. And after several games of feeling like a lot of things were being thrown at us without any connecting tissue, the climax of this game really felt like everything coming together. And I really appreciated that. Yeah, I just love it. I really like it. It's really fun. The story was kind of a mess, but you know, there's always Kingdom Hearts 4. We'll probably have to wait like another 5 years for it. I kind of struggled choosing a character that wasn't already discussed for Kingdom Hearts here. I guess I'll bring up Demyx as being my favorite character from the organization. His involvement here was pretty interesting, and also the fact that we haven't gotten Demyx's like non-heartless form. He's kind of a big question mark, like he's kind of mysterious, and I really hope that they expand upon that because I really liked his personality when we first met him, and yeah, he's fun. He's a fun guy.
Number 8. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
The first Final Fantasy VII game that I've played, like I think I was perfectly content with just going through the remake trilogy, but after playing this game, I was just way too interested in this world, and that's really what got me to play the original game. But anyway, just on this game alone, I think it was just a really well-made game. It was really easy to get through, which is not in terms of difficulty. I mean, I guess it was easy, but easy in the sense that I didn't feel like I needed to put it down or I got too overwhelmed. It was a pretty well thought out pace, and it was just very well made. I think it also found a really good balance between like the more actiony real-time gameplay elements and the kind of ATB turn-based combat. It's up there for me in terms of Final Fantasy combat mechanics. So yeah, the graphics were great, the materia system was interesting, the characters were excellent, and it might have been different for me having no prior experience with Final Fantasy VII going into this remake here. So I'm interested in whether that reflected in terms of how I enjoyed the game. Obviously, this isn't going to be the last Final Fantasy game I'm discussing on this list, but it's still, yeah, it's a pretty good game. Favorite character for this game, I'll say Sephiroth. Even before I got into the game, everyone knows about who Sephiroth is. I just knew him as the hot guy with long white hair and bad morals. And I think this game does a really good job in setting up this mystery and menacing presence of Sephiroth as an entity. Also, shout out and honorable mention to Yuffie. I played Intermission and I fell in love with her character. She is so fun. I really appreciated that they expanded upon her story here.
Number 7. Xenoblade Chronicles.
My first Xenoblade game. Oh man, this was such an experience. I loved the story, I loved the world, I loved the combat, I loved the characters. There is so much that is good with this game. I was initially kind of worried because I didn't know if I would click with the combat, but I think I made it work. I like that each character plays differently, and I had to like work around the new mechanics that I was learning. And yeah, the story and characters were great. I really liked Shulk as a protagonist, and the supporting cast was also really compelling. Admittedly, I didn't really explore much of the world because when I play it on stream, I tend to focus on the main story. But like from the small sections that I did explore, they were really like a very well realized world. I know it's weird for me to not be able to talk a lot about a game that I've ranked so high, but it's just that they did everything so well and there's really nothing much I can complain about. Oh, there is one thing I'll complain about. So my favorite character is Elvis, and my god, the only thing that I am upset about is that the fact that he isn't a party member. Like, what do you mean I can't play as Elvis? Oh my god, I love Elvis. Why is he not playable? I mean, I get story-wise why he's not playable, but still, I want to play as Elvis. Come on. I've already bought Xenoblade Chronicles 2 actually, and I'm looking forward to playing it next year.
Number 6. Final Fantasy VII.
OG FF7 is one of those games that makes you feel nostalgic even though you didn't grow up with FF7. The world, the music, the gameplay, everything just feels so at home, you know? There's a reason why it's the most popular Final Fantasy game ever. There's a reason why the big twist in the middle of the game is so ubiquitous that even I knew about it before I played the game. And yeah, I just never got tired of the game. Like, the story was engaging and being able to travel around the world was amazing as well. The different areas you go to and the characters you meet, they're all so great. And I like that even though you go to these different places, they don't feel detached from the world at all. And it's just really fun. It really holds up well, and which is surprising because this is probably the oldest game that I've played on this list. I'm really glad that I went back to play this game because it really made playing the remakes even more enjoyable. Have I gushed enough about the story? It's such a good story. Even down to things like the dialogue and the humor, it all lands really well. So my favorite character, Vincent Valentine. And just so you know, it is mainly because he's really hot and really cool. I mean, I love his backstory as well, but he's just so, oh my god, he's got so much aura. And I just love that he uses a gun in battle. That's like, gosh.
Number 5. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
So it might come as a shock that I do like Rebirth more than the original. Maybe it's recency bias, who knows, maybe this ranking will change over time as I look back on it, but just the Rebirth experience is just so good, built upon what they did in Remake and just expanded upon it and made it just much better in every way. People have a lot of sticking points with this game, especially with regards to like the padding and how much miscellaneous stuff there is to do in the game. I wasn't really bothered with it. I didn't really feel the need to go out and do all of these things, which I guess is a different approach to how I enjoy my games. But just from what I've played, it was still really well paced. It was really fun. I think this arc of the game is probably my favorite part of FF7, so that might help as well. And yeah, again, I'm really glad I played the original game because now I know that the remake trilogy is kinda different compared to the original, so it was fun to see what new things they added to these games. It doesn't need to be said, but the graphics are just insane. It's probably the most beautiful Final Fantasy game that I've played. Like getting onto the Golden Saucer Ferris wheel, or heading up to the Cosmo Canyon, everything was just so gorgeous. For this game, I'll talk about Cloud. I think especially in this game, you see him start to really like fall apart, and I think he had some really great interactions with the other characters in this game. Cloud is such a great protagonist even in the original and up until now, and I really hope he gets the therapy he needs. I don't think he will. He's just gonna really get worse in the third game, but it'll be fun to watch, I guess.
Number 4. Très Obscur. Expedition 33.
I got around to this game in May, and by then it had already a lot of momentum towards becoming one of the best games of the year. And so I was really hyped, especially upon learning that it's a turn-based JRPG based gameplay. And it lived up to the hype in every measure. The fact that it's this high on the list, higher than some of the more established JRPGs of all time, pretty much speaks volumes of how much I love this game. I mentioned the turn-based gameplay, but there's also the story, the amazing story, the great cast of characters, oh my god, the incredible music. It has really every aspect that you would find in a great JRPG. And going through the game, it just never stopped blowing my mind by how beautiful this game looks and how fun it is to play. So I was like originally really afraid that I would not enjoy it as much because I suck at reaction-based gameplay. The parrying mechanic was kind of worrisome, but honestly, I just worked around it and it worked great. I still had a lot of fun with it. It's just one of those games that I'm gonna be thinking about for years to come, and I'll probably go back to on occasion, just from how great the presentation is. I'm recording this, and this is probably gonna be released before the Game Awards, but if it doesn't win all of the awards, then something is wrong with the world. Also, I just love how unabashedly French it is. It is so amusing. And also the voice acting. The performances were amazing, like they really brought these characters to life. My favorite character is Smile. She is just such a great character. Honestly, we control other characters most of the time, but Mael to me is the true protagonist of the story. Everything from her personality to how strong she is. Like, if you play the game, you know that one skill that absolutely breaks the game so much that the devs had to patch it out. And yeah, she's just overall a really well-written character.
Number 3. Final Fantasy 9.
I kind of went into this game with some low expectations, I guess, because I played this after 8 and I didn't really enjoy that one that much. But my god, maybe it's because of that low expectation that it just really blew me away. It is just such an amazing game from start to finish. I kind of had my guard down with the art style. I was thinking this is going to be a fun little upbeat game. But no, some of the themes they tackle in this game are really dark. It has such a beautiful story, and the way that they presented the story was really beautiful too. It really feels like the pinnacle of these medieval fantasy settings in the Final Fantasy games. I thought the romance between the two main characters were really good. The humor was really appreciated in the game as well. Just the tone of the entire game was really great. And it has one of my favorite characters in all of Final Fantasy, Vivi. Oh my god, I love Vivi with all my heart. I need to protect him at all costs. He's just the best boy, and his backstory was so tragic, and the way that he recovered from that was so beautiful. Oh my god. I really want Square Enix to actually go through with Final Fantasy IX's remake. Like, the original holds up, but I really want to see how they do it with modern graphics, and oh my god, it would be so beautiful. Please, Square.
Number 2. Kingdom Hearts 2.
I don't think it's really controversial to be ranking Kingdom Hearts 2 as the best Kingdom Hearts game, but it is just that good. I think it hits the sweet spot of being a part of a story that still kind of made sense to me at the time, before it really got out of hand. We got to revisit some of the old worlds from the first game and also some new ones, and they're all movies that I enjoy. The gameplay was really fun. I liked switching the forms that Sora has. Also, I didn't mention in the original game, but I hated the gummy ship. It's still kind of annoying here, but it's definitely better. Yeah, getting to fight all the organization members and having those really start to creep into Sora's world was so cool to see. And I really liked all the new characters that they introduced, which brings me to my favorite character of the game, Roxas. He's probably one of, if not my favorite character in all of Kingdom Hearts. I just loved his story, his personality, and just how cool he looks. Like, even in Kingdom Hearts 3 and here, he just looks so cool. And of course, his relationship with Xion and Axel. Like, I wasn't sure why Axel was so popular, but by the time I got to Days and I saw all of those cutscenes, I was like, oh man, I get it now. And it's all because of Roxas. He's got a really tragic backstory, and I hope he continues to play an important part in the future games. Hopefully.
Number 1. Final Fantasy X.
When I set out to play every Final Fantasy game, I wasn't expecting 10 to be my favorite, and let alone my favorite game that I've played this year. It has everything that I love about a Final Fantasy game and a JRPG all wrapped up in one. First off, it has traditional turn-based mechanics, which is something that is like pretty unique within Final Fantasy itself, and you know how much I love traditional turn-based games. The sphere grid was an interesting mechanic to build your characters. Music, I mean, it's Final Fantasy. The music is always gonna slap, and in this game, it's no different. The setting and the world is beautiful. It was really varied and very fun to go through. The themes that they tackled with things like racism or parental trauma. The tone is great, the dialogue is awesome, and of course the cast of characters are really well written. It was really tough for me to pick just one out of all of these characters. I really love all of them. But I think I'm gonna give it to Titus. Like, Final Fantasy protagonists can be a really mixed bag. On one hand you have Cloud, and on the other hand you have Ban. And Titus is great in the sense that he actually does manage to keep up with the rest of the cast in terms of likability, and the fact that his story is so integral to the plot instead of being just there to spectate the events. And also I really like his sword. Like, the water sword is just so cool. I talked a bit about Yuna in X2, but she's a great character in this one as well. We all know that pivotal scene between Titus and Yuna. That was an amazing scene. Also really love Auron. You know how I like my hot men. This guy is just an aura farmer through and through. Another hot man is Seymour as well. I really like him, and I kind of wish I got to play him a bit more. Yeah, the fact that Titus can stand with these large personalities really speaks to a lot to him as a protagonist, and that's probably why I like him the most. And I know there's a lot of trends with the characters that I like, whether they're white-haired or hot. One of the trends you can tell is I like a character that has flaws, may start out as immature, but definitely goes through some growth by the end of the game. And I think Titus really embodies that. He's just a really human character in this strange fantasy world that he literally is thrown into, so he's just a great character to see the world through. And that was my list. Thank you so much for watching, and I know a lot of my takes are controversial. I try to formulate my thoughts as I went along, but obviously it's hard for me to gauge how I feel about each game exactly into words, but I tried my best. And I'm really glad I got through this journey, especially through the Kingdom Hearts series and the Final Fantasy series. I'm definitely gonna keep playing these games. I'm going back to like the older Final Fantasy games eventually. And just JRPGs in general. There's a lot of games that I'm looking forward to playing next year, and yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make another list like this next year, if I even have the time to play 50 games, but I'll try to play as many as I can. And if you have any recommendations for me based on the games that I've played and my taste, you can let me know. Otherwise, let me know your thoughts about the games and like my ranking, I guess. Don't kill me. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want to, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next time.